59 The Zone. You can watch the show right now on Facebook. Search the Out of Bounds Show. And, of course, we're streaming on the Out of Bounds radio app. So, Facebook, you can watch the webcast, search the Out of Bounds Show. We welcome in John Cohen, athletic director at MSU. His baseball program heading to the CWS for the third year in a row. John joins us on the Modelo guest line. John, good morning. How are you?
I'm doing great, Bo. Good morning.
Well, good morning. It's hard to quantify what the impact of the crowd over the weekend, but they had an impact both on Mississippi State and Notre Dame. I know 2019 was crazy and wild and fun with Mangum and McNamee and all of that. I felt like it was even more so over the weekend. How would you try to quantify the impact of the crowd in the Super Regional this weekend for MSU?
Well, Bo, it was like, 75 years ago, but I remember as a player, even in our old facility, what it was like to have, 10+ thousand people, 13,000 people really lift you up and say, we're behind you, we believe in you, and we want you to be successful, and have them vocalize that. It's an incredible experience. And I'll tell you something, when you go into professional baseball, it's gone. There's none of that. You're on your own. I mean, you're honestly a free agent in that type of world. But, I'm in agreement with you. I mean, it was electric. I think the way the new facility sets up, too, it holds in a significant amount of crowd noise. And, our ops people do such a great job with the environment, with the music, and the displays on the board. So, yeah, I'm in agreement with you. I think it was probably an even better environment than we had Stanford in here 2 years ago.
Were you surprised even at the crowd on Monday? I'm sure you thought you were going to have a good crowd, but the fact that it's a work day and it's a Monday night, we were talking 8,000 to 10,000. They blew the doors off of that. Were you surprised at how big the crowd was Monday night?
Yeah, our fans never surprise me, Bo, just because they're into it. They're knowledgeable. They're passionate. They get it. What amazes me more than anything, I know Monday was a work day, and, folks probably, took a day off. And, in some cases, Bob always said, we have folks spending money on Mississippi State baseball they might not necessarily have, or maybe they had saved it for vacation, and this is their vacation. That's a lot of dedication on their part, and it doesn't go unnoticed. Every one of our players, every one of our staff members realizes that, and in some cases that can put a lot of pressure on our players, but golly, they sure did perform. And I think for a Monday it was an extraordinary crowd, and we're just so appreciative that we have that type of fan base.
Why do you think the program's been able to go to the College World Series with 3 different coaches in the last 8 years?
Well, I think a big part of it, Bo, is you have to have what Pat McMahon used to call class balance. Meaning that you have people coming in, student athletes coming in who are going to contribute. The ones who are freshmen have to get, in many cases they have to be given time to experience things and get better. They have to fail. I feel like there's been a really solid group of players who are not only good players, but kids who take a lot of pride in being baseball players at Mississippi State. And listen, this isn't just the case at Mississippi State. I want to give some credit here. What Mike Bianco's done at Ole Miss and the club they had this year, I thought they had one of the elite clubs in the country. What Scott Berry's done at Southern Miss, let's just take a moment to pause and realize that I'm not sure, I can't remember how high Southern Miss got in the polls, but at one point in time, we were pretty close to having 3 Mississippi schools in the top 10 in the country. I mean, let's just pause and think about that for a minute. So, the quality of baseball in our state is remarkable. The pride that's taken is incredible. But, yeah, I think that the leadership of the kids and the kids that we have had come in are pretty special.
It's almost like I don't know why this keeps happening in the program. Obviously, you love it, both as a coach and now an AD, John Cohen on the Modelo guest line. It's almost as if Tanner Allen and Rowdy just refuse to lose. I know it sounds corny, but, I mean, look at the way they elevated their game in their last game on that field, both in the field and at the plate. John?
Yeah, and I think, Bo, you and I have had this conversation before, but coming into the year, I'm not ashamed to say this. I knew we had great arms, but, you know, there was some concern on my part. We just hadn't had players who had any SEC experience coming in. There's really talented kids. But you look at our lineup, what do we have, 3 kids? 3 kids out of 9 who had any SEC experience whatsoever. And I think you're talking about Tanner and Rowdy. You know, those 2 kids have a lot of SEC experience, and I think they knew we have to be leaders. We have to show the way because nobody else has experienced what we have experienced. And I just, you know, Rowdy is a tremendous player. But I think TA, honestly, just watch and look at the landscape. There's a lot of great players in the country. I'm not sure there's a better amateur hitter in the entire country than Tanner Allen. I mean, golly, Bo, he is so difficult to pitch to. If you pitch him away, he'll hit a laser the other way. You come in on him, he can hit a ball out of the yard, or he'll get hit by the pitch. He turns singles into doubles. He's turned himself into a plus college outfielder. I mean, you're right. Tanner and Rowdy, they're really, really good players at the top end of that order.
And what about little things like their base running on Monday? I mean, both of them did some of the little things on the base paths that were a big difference in the game. John?
You're 100% right. And again, I just, you know, for all of our fans who are out there, I know they get this, but that didn't happen when they first got to Mississippi State. I mean, their experience, the coaching, the daily grind taught them how to play the game at a higher level and how to be able to exploit things on the base paths. It takes time. And, you know, we have high expectations for our student athletes at Mississippi State. And sometimes I think we put a little bit more on those younger guys than we need to because it takes some time.
John Cohen on the Out of Bounds show. Landon Sims, just talk about his mental makeup to come in as early as he did in the 6th inning. And I'd like for you to speak on this since you're a former player and baseball coach, that I thought he had his B stuff. This is how good he is. He had his B stuff, but he was able to do what he needed to do. So he didn't have his A+ electric stuff, but he's so good with his B stuff that he was able to go 4 innings and get 12 outs. Discuss that for us.
Yeah. Listen, I'm not trying to take anything away from the first baseman from Notre Dame. He absolutely crushed that ball. I mean, that was a sight to see for sure. But then you realize he's 1 for 5. We punch him out twice in key situations, and we get him to hit into a game-ending double play. And the home run is basically, as a coach, you're telling Landon Sims, you're saying, hey, listen, buddy, we don't care if he hits this ball 500 feet. You ain't walking him. Because a walk is much more damaging than him hitting a ball, you know, into Lowndes County. And that's exactly what happened. But he's got the maturity to understand that. He said that in the post game. He said, I'm not walking the guy. And basically the kid got a 3-1 fastball. He knew it was coming. Again, not taking anything away from him. The kid can really play. It's not an accident he's got 24, 25 home runs. But what did Landon Sims do the next time that kid got up, right? He threw him a slider. He got the big hop to the pull side, and Mississippi State's going to the College World Series. That's who Landon Sims is. He's not going to get flustered. He's a kid who's going to learn as the game goes on. He does a great job of reading swings. He's probably our best, you know, command guy on our entire pitching staff. And when you're going 95, 97 to command on both sides, that's a tough customer to deal with. And you're 100% right, Bo. He did not have his A+ stuff. He just pitched. And if I'm a professional scout and I'm watching that, I'm saying, wow. I mean, even when he doesn't have the big-time stuff, he can still get people out. When he needs to get the strikeout, he can do that too.
John Cohen on the Out of Bounds show and the Modelo guest line. You're listening to ESPN 105.9 The Zone. You can watch the show right now on Facebook. Search the Out of Bounds show. Can you talk a little bit about the Notre Dame lineup and how talented they were and their plate discipline? I mean, they would make the MSU pitchers work because they just were not going to swing at balls outside of the zone.
Well, I mean, when you do a side-by-side comparison, I mean, here's an ACC team that's starting 5 seniors. And I think it's either 4 seniors or 5 seniors and 3 juniors. The amount of collective experience they had far outweighed what our kids had. Now, we're playing at home. That's an advantage. There's no doubt about that. But, yeah, that might be the best lineup I've seen. I see them in their regional, and I'm just flipping across and I'm watching their at-bats in their regional. And, of course, they score so many runs. It was ridiculous. And then you realize, is it because the pitching might have been subpar of the regional, or are they that good a hitting team? What I know now is they're that good. I mean, these guys, you're right, they take marginal pitches. They make you, they really have a game plan. If you're going to throw them away, they'll get all over the top of the plate and take that away from you. You come in on them, they can get to that pitch as well. They can create backspin and hit balls out of the yard. I mean, that is a complete lineup. Their 9-hole guy is just
yeah.
That as good a weekend as I mean, when you're that good 1 through 9, it's a tough chore. And I feel really fortunate that we got out of this thing because at any point in time they've proven they can put a 10 spot on the board at any time.
And how about the range of their shortstop, John?
Yeah, and again, this is where age and experience matters, right? He had a tough game in the opener. He kicks a couple of balls that get on him, and what does he do? He says, okay, I'm figuring out this surface. Watch this. And the rest of the whole time, he's completing unbelievable double plays or starting unbelievable double plays. He's, leaving his feet. He's keeping balls on the infield. And I tell you, that arm strength of the shortstop, wow. I mean, that ball's staying about 3.5, 4 feet off the ground. It's just lasers across from the left side. They could really play defense. Their lineup was unbelievable. And listen, they're very competitive pitching staff.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. That young man on Sunday, I think the starter, was unbelievable. John Cohen on the Modelo guest line. You're listening to the Out of Bounds show. With all the people in the world of baseball, college and MLB, have you heard from anybody that, you can drop a name, that texts you or reached out to you and watched the Super Regional on TV that was like, John, what in the world have y'all got going on there? That's one of the most electric, craziest atmospheres I've ever watched.
Well, I saw a bunch of those guys. Papelbon's at the game. I think Paul Merrow's at the game. I don't know if there's any heavyweights that I traded texts with because I saw so many of them at the ball game. But rest assured, and for anybody who's listening to me who did text me, I'll get back to you because there's hundreds of them there. But, I just and it's not so much about the actual outcome of the game. It's the atmosphere, Bo, that everybody is talking about. And, I think when you're there all the time, you don't necessarily take it for granted, but you step away from people who hadn't been there in a while and they go, wow, it is dramatically different than it's been in the past. One of the things that I really love, our Hail State Productions does such a great job kind of telling our story on social media, but the pictures from right behind the pitcher's mound, right over the pitcher's shoulder, it looks like our upper deck is like right on top of the mound. And I just love that experience because it gives you a mini version of a Yankee Stadium type of feel. I think that's what most of the text and the conversation was about, was the atmosphere even more than the outcome of the game.
Yeah. What's the biggest difference, in your opinion, in the new stadium and old stadium? So you coached in the old stadium, you played in it. And now you're the AD in the new stadium. What's the biggest difference, in your opinion?
Well, I'm not a big fan of the old metal bleachers. They're hot, they're uncomfortable, and they're usually, set up in a configuration where they're facing towards your center fielder instead of home plate. We have a 360 experience now, Bo. I mean, you've been to our facility many times. You can if you choose to, you can walk all the way around and experience every part of our facility except for the left field lofts, which is something we wanted to get accomplished. We wanted to allow you to go to a concession stand and turn around and still be in the game and not have a wall in front of you. We wanted airflow to be able to get through the stadium and not be blocked like the last one. The old facility, we all loved it, but it was a little bit disjointed. Okay, so here's stadium and here's nothingness, and then here's some metal bleachers, and then there's nothingness. And how do you get to the left field lounge? Again, it's not perfect. There's some things that we're going to continue to improve upon, Bo, but I do think it's the best experience college baseball has to offer.
It's unbelievable. Sight lines, and you're right. I guess the seamless transition to get from the chairbacks to the outfields, and you can actually walk around in the outfield now, which is incredible. Let's get back to the players. John Cohen on the Out of Bounds show. Discuss the impact of Logan. We've talked to you about him behind the plate. Discuss the impact of him at the plate and kind of where he's trending, and then where this could end up his last season next year for him.
Well, I will start with this, Bo. I've been a part of this for a long time, and I've really studied the coaching aspect in all sports. But that relationship that the pitching coach has with the pitcher, and in this case, and Foxhall's done such a great job there, but the relationship that Gotro has with our hitters is remarkable. He's like a hitting whisperer. He can get the most out of our kids. He gets them to calm down. The two-strike approach is incredible. In fact, though I wanted to drop this on you, I was looking at our numbers prior to the game on Monday. You're looking at a pitching staff that had 725 strikeouts coming in, which is the most per nine in the country. And you're looking at an offense that had, I believe, 375 strikeouts. That was a differential of 350 strikeouts, which to me, I couldn't prove this, but I think it's by far and away the biggest gap in the entire country. In other words, just to put it simply, we're not striking out, but you are. And when you have that going on with a ball club, you're going to win a ton of games. But part of that two-strike approach, you're just talking about our catcher. That's the one thing. And here's another guy who has not a ton of SEC experience. In fact, no SEC experience. And he's coming up big in big situations. And I think Gotro has done such a great job, especially with the two-strike approach of our hitters.
You coached in the National Championship Series in 2013. The format has changed over the years, the CWS format, and you're more than familiar with it, having been in the championship series at Mississippi State and at Florida, and having been a player in what I kind of call the old format, if you will. What is the approach since you've prepared for this, for 4 or 5 days going in? What is the approach to the CWS?
The approach is you normalize a new location. You got to make your routine, your day is the same day you would have had in Starkville, Mississippi. And that's difficult to do, when fans are around. It's difficult to do when you're in a new environment. But I think Chris and the staff will do a great job of that. You just make Omaha somehow, some way into Starkville, Mississippi. And it's all about your work and your preparation, not your surroundings. It's not a secret. I think one of the things about our ballpark that's very difficult for opposing players and coaches is it offers so many things that are different that you're adjusting to. But the key is not adjusting to your environment. The key is making that environment yours. And, if you can do that, if you can stay away from the bright lights and stay focused on the task at hand, those are the teams really that run deep in Omaha.
How cool is it for you to see former players from other sports get so into the baseball program? Guys like Jeffrey Simmons and Dak Prescott.
Well, to me, it's just a great time of year because even though those guys, might be doing individual work, with their teams, it's a time of year where they can actually take a breath and watch some things on TV. And yeah, just having those guys involved is huge because they're all great Bulldogs. And you know, I know this is an overused term, and I don't mean for it to be, but it's truly a family. And these kids are pulling for each other. You know, my God, I see Ben Howland at our baseball game. He's going nuts. Like Ben Howland is all over it. Nikki McCrae Penson is at the game, and she's all over it. And I just think everybody's pulling for everybody else because in a town like Starkville, Mississippi, in a place like Mississippi, that's the only way it can work. And quite frankly, you know, I've been at a place or two where maybe that was not the case. You know, everybody's in different silos. Not at Mississippi State. Everybody's pulling together, and and this was not started by John Cohen. It was started a long time ago. It's just a special place.
John Cohen on the Modelo guest line, MSU AD, joining us on ESPN 105.9 The Zone. John, thanks for your time today. We appreciate it.
You got it, Bo. Thank you for having me.
John Cohen joining us on the Out of Bounds show, recapping the Super Regional, the atmosphere, the stadium, and the fact that MSU punched their ticket to the CWS, Blake, to Omaha, Nebraska, third in a row. Now, John took Mississippi State to Omaha in 2013. And then now they've gone back 3 years in a row. Lemonis with 2 of those. That's who Cohen hired. And they've been to 5 CWSs since 2007, right? And 4 since 2013. So, and super regional wins. They've gone on the road and done it. Now, I think this is kind of the difference maker here. John took a team to Virginia and UVA and Charlottesville and won. Yep. UVA is really, 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 really good. Baseball is right in their wheelhouse. And then they go on the road and they win a Vanderbilt Super Regional at Vandy. And then they've won 2 Super Regionals at home as of late against Stanford and Notre Dame. So go through all 4 of those names real quick. Virginia, Vanderbilt, Stanford, Notre Dame. Those are all fantastic baseball programs with an enormous amount of talent, right? So that's impressive. And it's kind of 2 on the road, 2 at home. You got to be able to do both. Yep. You're not going to get a national seed every year. It sounds, you know, great, but it's not going to happen. So they've proven that they can go on the road, win Super Regionals, host Super Regionals, and win them at home too. So they'll advance to the College World Series. We're going to let's see what I've got here. We were efforting one more guest. I'm not sure that that's going to come through. We'll let you know on the other side. We will do the prize wheel in the third hour. I'm excited about that. So we'll give away some super, super cool stuff in the third hour. Hang in there with us. Good show today. The Out of Bounds Show, ESPN 105.9 The Zone. Thanks for hitting the podcast. Apple Podcasts. Search the Out of Bounds Show. Would love for you to hit the subscribe button. Straight ahead, Mike Bianco. Does he stay or does he go? We're live in the Bank Plus studio. Out of Bounds, brought to you by Edwin Watts Golf Shop on County Line Road.